You have one new message.
Hello? Looks like you're doing a fine job. I mean, you're still here. You're already, like, practically as good as the last guard we had. Except, of course, he got fired in the end. But, yeah, he kind of damaged one of the animatronics during his shift. I mean, you wouldn't do that, would you? No way. I guess he went a little crazy, being alone in the dark each night. You know that character that the kids can draw on, Blank, I think? Yeah, I always really liked that one. It's a brilliant concept. Yeah, his suit is made out of some special plastic stuff, I think, that the kids can come in and, grab a crayon and start drawing on his head or his arms. Some of the others here think that he looks a bit scary after that whole security guard thing. We tried our best to fix him, but parts of him, like his left hand and the back of his head, are still missing. But the kids don't really seem to mind it, so it's not a major issue. Yeah. From what we can tell, his head got a real beating, so he might act a little strange. Like, he sometimes tried to get into the office through the window, and he even managed to crack the glass slightly once. Yeah, if he leaves the drawing room, just shut the window door so he doesn't break the glass. Those old ones couldn't really see glass very well. By the way, we're expecting more customers over the course of the next days, so next week we may need you on the day shift too, if you're up for it. Well anyway, have a good night.
You have 1 new message.
Hello? Just checking in, making sure you're A-okay. So remember that previous security guard I told you about? Yeah, so we got a call from the police today. Apparently he has gone missing. I guess he actually was a bit crazy. I remember, like, the day before his last night of the week, he asked me to be with him on his shift that night. He told me there was something he had to show me. I know, it sounds crazy, right? Although I declined, he still showed up for his shift. So, then of course, the next morning we found out that blank character had been severely damaged, you know. And then we checked the surveillance equipment. We found out that he had brought a wrench and completely smashed blank. He had also left the building in the middle of his shift after that. I mean, he must have, you know, he was nowhere to be found the next morning. He couldn't contact him or anything. So, the manager just fired him and sent him a pink slip, you know. Anyway, I'll leave you to your work. Yeah, stay tight and we'll talk again tomorrow. Have a good night.